exactly what you want to see. Let's run this puppy in. Score a touchdown and tie this game. Life, run for your life, touchdown on one play. Worked on this in practice. Touchdown. It's up to Kelvin Benjamin. This is all you, buddy. Kelvin Benjamin for a touchdown. Oh, he toasted his man. Holmes toasted his man. Spin move. Oh! Oh! What's going on, guys? All right. I don't even feel like doing my intro. Let's get straight into the video. I got the slinky out because you know it's going to be a rough one. So, I don't even really want to talk about it. I don't even really want to talk about it. So, as all of America and the world knows, yesterday was the game. Ohio State and Michigan. In my preview episode, my pregame episode on Saturday, I obviously predicted a Buckeye win because I thought the Buckeyes would play better because they're coming off of a dominating victory against Michigan State. And yes, I know Michigan State's not that great, but they're still a good Big Ten team. They're like the third best team in the Big Ten every year. So, I mean, I still thought that they were going to be coming off of this great momentum. Yeah, I know you're going on the road against the second best team in the Big Ten, and it's always a tough environment, and it was snowing. I know all that, but still, the Buckeyes have much more talent than Michigan, so they should always win. But they just didn't. They didn't win. And I did acknowledge that I was scared going into this game. I was a little nervous. Aiden Hutchinson is a monster, and I talked about that in yesterday's episode. I talked about how much I was nervous about Aiden Hutchinson getting pressure. I talked about how this Michigan team, the Cade McNamara, doesn't really make mistakes. He controls the football, and he does what he needs to do, and then they just run the football. That's what Michigan does. They run the football, and then they pass sometimes when Cade McNamara has to. And they play really good defense. So Ohio State loses 42 gross to 27. I feel like I need to take a shower after reading that score. Let's get into the breakdown. Let's get into the breakdown of the game, if I can manage it. So, I'm still kind of in shock, if you can't tell. I don't really even know what else to talk about, or what really to start with. Because this Buckeye team played so undisciplined and played so poorly that I almost felt like I wasn't watching Ohio State football. That, to me, I don't know who that team was that took the field in Ann Arbor yesterday, but it wasn't the Buckeyes. I don't know what that was. That was some imposter team. I don't know if, like, Tulane or Kansas took the field and was wearing Ohio State colors, because that was surely not the Buckeye team that I watched this season. Absolutely destroy the rest of the Big Ten. Yeah, there was a couple close games in there, but mainly just destroying every opponent. But whoever that was that took the field yesterday certainly doesn't attend Ohio State University, because they did not play like it. They played like they just did not want to be there at all. They were undisciplined, penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty, unsportsmanlike conduct, holding, offsides, false starts, pass interference. It just adds on and on and on and on. And yes, I know a lot of those calls were bad calls. The refs were on something yesterday. I don't know what they were calling. There was a lot of those calls that should not have been called, and there was a lot of missed calls on Michigan's side of things where they were holding, they were false starting, they were pass interference, and they just didn't get called. So yes, we can have that argument, and that's a valid argument that the refs kind of screwed the Buckeyes in that game. But I don't want to have that argument because that kind of sounds like I'm a bitter Ohio State fan. And yes, inside my heart, I am a bitter Ohio State fan, but I don't want that to come out on camera. So the Ohio State defense, I talked about this yesterday. I talked about how I was nervous that this defense is spotty, and they sure are spotty. And there wasn't even any spots in this game. It was completely like Michigan didn't even have a defense on the field against them. They just did whatever they wanted. Hassan Haskins, Blake Corum, whoever else wanted to run the football, it was like the Buckeyes didn't even want to tackle them. There was no real like effort. Like it just didn't feel like an Ohio State game. You know what I mean? Like it didn't feel like that. And CJ didn't really even have that bad of a game. Like if we actually like break down the numbers, 34 of 49, 394 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. If you just look at the stats solely, that's not a bad game. Yeah, they lost, but that's not a bad game. But his Heisman run is over. His Heisman moment was taken back after a holding call. So he's not going to win the Heisman, which sucks. It's probably going to go to Bryce Young out of Alabama because apparently Alabama can do no wrong. I don't know, man. It's just, I don't really even know how to talk about it because I'm still in the moment. Like, I know it was a day. It's been almost a day now. I still don't know how I feel about it. I don't know how to react. In my lifetime, Michigan has only ever beaten the Buckeyes, I think, 3 times, not including this one. I watched the 2011 loss. That was the year with Luke Fickell. That was the suspension year. I watched the 2004? 3? I think the Buckeyes lost another year in the mid 2000s that I can't exactly remember. Maybe it's only 2 other times, not including this one. It's not something that I am accustomed to. I'm always accustomed to every final game of the season, every Buckeye Michigan game, Ohio State wins. That's just, in my lifetime, that's just what happens. So to see this score and to have it be such a difference, 42-27. Michigan hung 42. They hung 42 on the Buckeyes. And if you watch that game, it just did not look like Ohio State football. They just didn't care. Hassan Haskins did whatever he wanted. He had 5 rushing touchdowns in this game. 169 yards. 5 touchdowns. Against this Buckeye defense that's really, since the Minnesota game at the beginning of the season, doesn't really get beat by the run. Well, I shouldn't say that. Since the Oregon game, doesn't really get beat by the run that much. And yet, it just, like, Hassan Haskins did whatever he wanted. It wasn't even really that much of a difficulty for him. There was open gaps every single play. Every single play. He basically didn't get touched until he was like 5 yards downfield already. And I haven't even gotten to the play calling by Ryan Day. Like, there were some of those 3rd and 4th down calls in the early part of the game where you're running the ball at like 3rd and 5 when you know that Michigan's going to stack the box and you know Michigan's going to bring the blitz. Why are you calling a run play? I know you've got Travion Henderson, who's one of the best young running backs in the country, but why are you calling a run play on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 in your territory or even approaching their territory? You know they're going to stop it. And yet you just did it anyway. So I don't know what the play calling was. Ryan Day's been criticized all season. I've criticized him all season for his play calling. He's had some very questionable calls this season. And it's just, I don't know, man. There's just so many different things that happened in this game. Just bad defense, bad refereeing. It was a whole mess of problems, basically. And now we have to live through a whole year of Michigan fans throwing in our face. But they deserved it. As much as I hate to say it, Michigan on this day, I'm not saying any other day, but on that day, they were better than the Buckeyes. They wanted it more. They played hard. Aiden Hutchinson is a absolute demon. The other pass rusher, I forget how to pronounce his name. I don't want to butcher his name. You guys know who it is. He's the other pass rusher that's really, really good. He had like 11 sacks on the season or something. He's amazing. Aiden Hutchinson's now the all-time leader in sacks in a season for Michigan, so that's fine. It's just, I don't know. Ryan Day's going to have a lot to reflect on this season, and this offseason, more than any other offseason in the past, because usually we're coming off of a playoff trip and a Big Ten championship, and we can just coast to the next season. Not this season. I don't know. We're not at the point where we question if Ryan Day is the right guy, because obviously he's good enough to manage the talent that he has, and he's good enough to recruit even more good talent in. But it does beg the question: can Ryan Day call the big games? Because I mean, in the Clemson game that they lost, he had some questionable calls. In the Alabama game, in the championship game last season, he had some questionable calls. He's had questionable calls all throughout this season. So, I mean, it does beg the question, is Ryan Day good enough for the big moment? Is he good enough to call plays in the big moments, in the big games? So, that is a valid question, because there's facts, there's actual film to back it up. So, Ohio State fans have to keep the pressure on Ryan Day, and Ryan Day knows it. He has to evaluate every single coaching staff position. He has to evaluate offensive coordinator. He has to evaluate defensive coordinator for sure. He has to, I mean, really the only two people that are safe are Larry Johnson and Brian Hartline. Those are really the only two guys that are guaranteed safe in their jobs, because everybody else needs to either be fired or have a sit-down chat with and figure out what's going on. Because what I saw yesterday from this Ohio State team was just unacceptable. Like you cannot play like that. If you want to call yourself the Ohio State University, you want to be the second-ranked team in the country, you want to go to the playoffs and play Alabama and play Georgia, you want to be on that level, you want to be in that competition, you want to have a chance at a national championship, you cannot go out on the field against your rival and get blown out of the building. That's unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. I will not stand for it. No Ohio State fan that I have ever met or will ever know will ever stand for that. So, get your crap together. They need to get their crap together. They need to figure it out, because this is unacceptable. You cannot go and lose to Michigan by that much. It wouldn't even be anything. It would hurt. It would suck if we would have lost on a last-second field goal. That would have sucked. I would have been disappointed. I would have been angry. I would have been upset. But it's a different level of anger when you get blown out in their building. It's not acceptable. You're Ohio State. You are the Ohio State University. You are the best team in the country, and you cannot lose to your rivals and play that bad on defense and on offense. The offense is not safe. CJ Stroud, yeah, he had a good game. He could have played better. He had some missed throws. The wide receivers, they had good games. Jackson Smith-Njigba, over 100 yards. Garrett Wilson, over 100 yards, had an amazing touchdown catch that really only he could make. They had some drops. Chris Olave, drops. He's one of the best wide receivers in the country. They're not safe. They need to have a look. Yes, I know Chris Olave's gone after this season. Garrett Wilson probably likely gone after this season. So it's the Jackson Smith-Njigba show next season. And he's a special kind of player. But he dropped some passes in this game. So, I mean, nobody's safe. This defense for sure is not safe. So, it's just, I don't know, man. Ryan Day needs to have a serious talk with everybody on that team, players, staff, everybody. And he needs to evaluate some stuff. He needs to reevaluate every single thing, because this is unacceptable. And it's not, I'm not gonna be sugarcoating it. I'm not going to look at the bright side. I'm not going to look at, oh, the Buckeyes are probably going to be in a Rose Bowl or some sort of New Year's Six Bowl. I don't care about that. That's not what we play for. When you're Ohio State, you don't play for a New Year's Six Bowl. You play for a national championship, and that's it. If you don't win a national championship, it's a failed season. And that's not to be a spoiled Ohio State fan or a braggy Ohio State fan. It's the facts. When you're a team like Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Florida, Texas, USC, these kind of programs are of the level. Yes, some of those teams have fallen off in the past decade, but they are of the stature where it's national championship or failed season. So there's no other way to look at this than a failed season. Yes, we're probably going to go to a Rose Bowl or a Sugar Bowl or a Fiesta Bowl, whatever bowl's not in the playoffs. And we're probably going to win that because we're going to be better than the other team that's there. But I won't be happy. I'm not going to be happy that we win the Rose Bowl. I don't care about the Rose Bowl. I'm not going to be happy that we win the Fiesta Bowl or the Sugar Bowl or the Orange Bowl or whatever bowl we get thrown into because that's not the national championship. And we got to sit on the sidelines next Saturday and watch Michigan play in their first ever Big Ten championship game because we're not there, because we didn't show up on Saturday and play our best game. When we knew that the rival was going to play their best game, they were going to give us their best shot, and they certainly did. We got punched in the mouth and fell to the floor and could not get up. It's unacceptable, and I'm not going to stand for it. I don't care if I sound like a annoying, spoiled, selfish brat Ohio State fan. I don't care. It's unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. I will not stand for it. So I'm done. I'm done ranting. I'm done. Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe. Whatever. Peace.